Could Penn State actually lose players after spring ball? Well, there's no transfer portal, so how would that be possible?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
My name is Zach Seyko. I'm the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. He is Brian Smith, recruiting expert here in the Locked On Podcast Network and host of the Portal Podcast. And this is a crossover episode to talk all things Penn State recruiting, but also the potential of a shadow portal. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla cake flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Friendly reminder to let us know your thoughts down in the comments section, as we will discuss 2027 quarterback targets, as Penn State is in the mix for now the top QB in the class of 2027. There's also Peter Bourque and a couple other prospects that we need to discuss with who Penn State is linked to. But the spring portal, it's not there. It doesn't exist anymore. But Brian, there's this understanding that a shadow portal will emerge where players will just transfer schools and walk on to a football team. And you think Penn State could be, do you think Penn State could actually be affected by this, that they would lose players to this?
I think everybody will. There's going to be people that, for whatever reason, are targeted by other schools. Here's the scenario. After spring practice, they're going to be coaches who their jobs are tenuous anyway. They don't care, because if they lose, especially if it's a quarterback or an offensive tackle or defensive tackle that gets hurt, if they're not cheating, they're not going to win enough. And then once the cycle starts and somebody loses somebody, then you got to then it's a vicious cycle that never really concludes. So got a phone call about it on Wednesday, and it was a situation where I was told ADs are talking to try to find ways around this. And it's going to, I know this will not surprise anybody, it's going to become a legal drama battle, because NCAA they don't want to deal with it. There's going to be a state battle. And this, for anybody that wonders if Congress is going to get involved, you see the politicians kind of backing away from this stuff, because if they ever have to support something that goes against state U anywhere, what happens to them? They get voted out. So they're not going to be much help. It has nothing to do with fair. It's about everybody getting what their team wants. Let's be honest. It's all about bias. So, yeah, this is a problem, Penn State and everybody, and it will be completely random. You don't know who's going to go, but I was told there are some guys that are planning to leave and just saying, screw the NCAA. And it's not a good situation.
And that's what I mean. So we're going to take the big picture approach too, talking about the logistics of this, how this would even work. From Penn State's perspective, I would like to think that a lot of players would be aligned with Matt Campbell, but also part of me says, okay, but what about the players that maybe have second thoughts? Okay, they like the idea of Matt Campbell when he came in over the winter, right? He was hired, but it was a pretty quick meet and greet. Then you actually go through the nuances of it. You go through the winter workouts, you go through spring practice, you figure out your place on the depth chart. Somebody gives you a phone call and says, well, hey, you could have a better spot. You could have a starting spot. We could get you more NIL money in other ways, even if you are signed. So do you think that Penn State, I know you said right out of the gate, every school is going to deal with this, but in Penn State's specific perspective, because they have a new coach and not all of these players are Matt Campbell's players, where would you put the panic meter, concern meter for the Nittany Lions?
I would put it probably a little bit above some of the others for the reasons you just mentioned, but I don't think it's like a massive deal, like a 6 out of 10 instead of a 5 out of 10. And some of these guys don't know Matt, but he's got a great rep as far as how he treats players. So I would assume they're in a good spot, but I can't say for sure. The only thing I know is all these kids at different schools, when somebody loses a player, it's just a list. I know they have people just about in every office that scout other teams' rosters. And I mean that literally. Like, it's part of their job. Because if they're going to do it to you, again, people don't want to hear excuses. They want to see W's. It's kind of, fans talk out of both sides. We want to be upright and do it the right way. If you lose, they don't care. So it's a problem. I would imagine that Penn State probably has a list too. Don't think that they don't, because they know they're going to get plucked. I'm sure their AD and people in their athletic department They're well aware of this. This isn't something that's a news flash. So I'm not sure how they're going to go about it, but if Penn State has anybody that gets calls early, maybe that could help them, set off the alarm bells. But why would the player do that? Because this is more individualistic now. It's not as team-oriented in the college realm as it used to be, probably not even close. And that means you're going to get probably blindsided by somebody after spring.
And that's my follow-up here is, does Penn State play the game too? Where, say, you unexpectedly lose a starter and then it's, well, we have no choice. Are you just going to stay pat and say, well, that we're fine with that. We're glad that a key player, someone who is going to contribute, someone who maybe wasn't necessarily a guaranteed starter, but hey, at a moment's notice, they're getting tons of playing time because of an injury, or they just still need to battle it out in training camp, but the player doesn't see it that way now after spring football. The whole point of not having a spring transfer portal window was so that you didn't have to do this all over again and potentially rebuild your team going into the summer. Now, the players don't like that. The coaches do. I understand the coach's perspective, but I understand the players. Hey, you get told that you're not going to be a starter, you're not going to get as much playing time, or nothing's guaranteed until fall training camp. I can see why the players. So before I go down that tangent, would Penn State play the game? If they, hypothetically, if they lost a key player, somebody that was a co-starter or someone that thought they deserved more playing time, but hey, we still have a role for you, and they get promised something else somewhere else, does Penn State play the game and do the exact same thing? I don't know that I would blame them if they did, and that's why the NCAA has to intervene.
What you just said there on that last sentence makes me chuckle, because the NCAA is probably the most toothless tiger in the world.
I know.
And to think that they would step in front of this thing they call lawyers and billable hours, they just don't do it. Prove me wrong. And that's why I've been told again that ADs are already speaking to try to come up with something, because it only takes a couple of kids that are like, if a couple of nobody's transferred, nobody's going to say anything. Yeah. But the first time a left tackle transfers, or a pass rusher, or a quarterback. Say you lose somebody. Exactly. Somebody takes an ACL. Uh-oh. Yes. It's going to happen to somebody on a non-contact injury. There's going to be a guy in a red jersey that blows his knee out that's a left tackle, it's the way it is. And if that's a team where the coach especially is on the hot seat, well, I'm going to get fired anyway.
You get desperate. Yeah.
Yep. So
rules be darned.
Yeah, it's at that point, well, who cares? That's where we're at. You have to make an example of somebody, as awkward as it is. There has to be that first school, and there's no way around it. One is the first number. And once that happens, people will back off. But you have to put yourself in front of, yes, the Warriors. There's no shortcut. So from what I'm told, how it works is pretty straightforward. We'll get into it more after the break, but you just unenroll, they go somewhere else and enroll. I'm not sure how the scholarship thing goes, but if you pay like out of pocket for that year, they'll just reimburse it. They're going to do it under the table. They're not going to make that kid, you know what I mean? That's what I've heard. So if the NCAA doesn't do it, who is? People have to be accountable. Like they have to. When I say accountable, I'm talking about you have to take scholarships away from people. Like it's got to be ugly and awkward. And that also means taking money from ESPN and CBS and them, because those schools are on the down. That's the other awkward part. And I don't know how you do that, because they don't want to hear that they're, especially if a Georgia or something got caught. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really awkward, but I don't know how you fix it.
Let's break it down further, because how does this actually happen? You started to tease it, Brian, that, hey, you unenroll, you just transfer schools. So what can the NCAA actually do to stop it, or is it unpreventable? We're going to talk about that next here on this Locked On Crossover.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. South Carolina rolled past Ole Miss 85-48 to clinch a share of the SEC regular season title and lock down the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. The Gamecocks extended their win streak over Ole Miss to 21 straight. UCLA dominated Wisconsin 80-60 to secure its first outright Big Ten regular season championship in program history. The Bruins improved to 27-1 overall and remain unbeaten in conference play. And number 12 TCU stormed back from a 13-point fourth quarter deficit to beat Iowa State 80-73. The Horned Frogs now sit alone atop the Big 12 standings and are one win away from clinching another regular season conference crown. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Well, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Now, here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered in for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. We're talking everything. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. You might be already looking at the board and thinking, hey, which team can make a deep run? Now is the perfect time to lock it in. Futures this time of year are great. Whether you're picking a team to win a conference title or the championship itself, it adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your pick cash, but it could also send you to the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for a chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. This is something that, yes, Penn State and Matt Campbell are going to have to be worried about because, again, what do you do if a player that you have a role for unexpectedly leaves? The hope is that, okay, well, the players here for Matt Campbell wouldn't consider that, right? You just never know at the end of the day. Promises that are made elsewhere, ambiguous promises, right? It's out of control, and the NCAA has to step in. So, Brian, I want more context from you here. How does this actually play out? Because the NCAA says, okay, there is no spring transfer portal window. So the team that you're on is the team that you're on. Okay, well, to circumvent that, well, I'll just transfer schools and then walk on since I am not an NCAA, I'm not an NCAA scholarship player. So that's kind of the, I guess, line in the sand, if you will, is that if they're going to toe the line, it's to say, well, I'm just a walk-on player. I'm not actually on scholarship. Okay, well, giving up your scholarship, that's a big deal. Not in this NIL era where you can have backdoor payments. You can just do other endorsements, other sponsorships. I'm sure the collective will have you covered or else they wouldn't try to recruit you this way. So, Brian, what are the actual logistics of it? How could whatever player decides they want to leave from school A to school B, how would they do this? And then how would the NCAA attempt to stop it?
Well, it's already happened. Xavier Lucas last year from Wisconsin to Miami was the first.
That's right.
When he left, he didn't even leave during the portal time period. He just enrolled in Miami and that was it. That was honestly the first. And since there has been this long period and the NCAA didn't do anything against Miami, the NCAA, as almost always, is reactionary. And when you're reactionary, instead of setting the tone, what happens? You get smacked upside the head. So I don't know if they're going to do anything. I personally think this spring will be an absolute adjunct disaster. And I think it will be lawsuit city because kids are going to walk out on whatever school. But I don't know if you saw this, but Brendan Sorsby is getting sued by Cincinnati. I don't know why he didn't do this, but he didn't pay his $1 million buyout to leave Cincinnati. Oh. Like these kids are just, $1 million is a lot of money. That's not how this works. I have a feeling he's going to have to write a check, but
I think he'll be fine though.
I think it'll get taken care of. The point is still the same. It's going to be just lawyer fees. They're going to try to force everybody to go through the paperwork and drag it out and make the schools look bad, like these agents. The one thing good out of it, I think after this, they're going to make it a rule. If you represent somebody, you got to have some kind of proper, I don't know what you say. I don't know if it's a test. There's going to have to be something because there are too many people that probably shouldn't be involved that are. So that'll probably help because a lot of them, from what I understand, are trying to get kids to move because every time they transfer, there's a chance of the NIL bag going up and then they get compensated more. Obviously, they live off of how much the player makes. So that's a part of it. But I just don't know if there's anything that's going to be different than just what you said. Like, is the NCAA really going to penalize somebody? Until they do, when I say penalize again, it's got to be harsh. Oh, it's strike. There's no strike one. It's strike three. You're out on one. Because if you don't, it will be a free for all, even into August. Who's to say somebody plays like crap first week of fall camp in August? It's good if it's your quarterback.
That would be outrageous. That would be outrageous.
Mark it down. It will happen. If you do not do something this spring, I'm not saying this is not Penn State. This is across the board.
This is in general. This is why we have these shows. Yeah.
It could be Michigan State. It could be New Mexico State. I have no idea. Somebody's going to say, screw you, right in the middle of fall camp and go to another school.
Well, and here's the thing, we've already seen the line in the sand get crossed because Miami took a player from Wisconsin. Just generally speaking, not many people outside of the school. So let just for the sake of the example, Akron or a smaller school, Ball State, right? Smaller schools that are in weaker conferences. The national perspective, nobody's going to care if a player from Ball State, Akron, whatever, just plays a school that's outside of the Power Four and they transfer and they get a better opportunity somewhere else at a bigger school. Or Division II up to Division I, right? Something like that. FCS up to FBS. It's a big deal only if, hey, this would be a national media, I won't say outrage, but it will get national media attention if Miami happens to take a player away from Penn State, hypothetically. Not saying that's going to happen, not saying that it could happen or it should happen or it will happen, but even Wisconsin, we all kind of just... I forgot about it. I'm being honest. I'm saying, hey, I'm guilty over here that, Wisconsin kind of falls out of that category of, well, it's not really a big deal. It's if LSU gets a player from USC or something like that. USC has a player, he doesn't really like his role, and then he transfers to LSU because they're able to promise him something better, whatever that is, in financial guarantees or playing time. That's when people are going to care. Is the NCAA really going to step in if a player from Tulane happens to go, go figure with Darian Mensah, right?
Great pick, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was by accident, but it all kind of connects back together here where Miami has now gone to Duke and Wisconsin and nobody's done anything about it.
Yeah, this is a problem. The teams with a lot of money, and the money I've heard Mensah got is insanity. So
good for him.
Yeah, good for him. But at the same time, you know what? At some point, there's going to be guys doing it outside the portal in the spring. That's a whole nother level. I mean, they're obviously inducing players from all kinds of schools from back and forth. If it happens with a quarterback, at some point, there's going to be an outrage from a head coach at a press conference. It makes Dabo's press conference look mild. And they're going to get the Warriors, and they're just going to go to that school. Like it's going to be that way, and you're going to see people start blackballing schools in terms of scheduling and everything. Like it's going to be basically like Republicans and Democrats, which in our country right now is pretty gross, obviously. So once you get to that level, there's nothing good about it. So again, that four-letter acronym, I don't know if they're capable of anything instead of getting out of the way because they're timid. But if they do not completely drop the hammer on somebody, why would it not just go rampant?
Is that a postseason ban? Do you punish I would say if you try to pull this as a player, you're suspended for the year.
I mean, I think that's what they're trying to figure that out. But my guess is they're just worried. Like they don't want to, like if 50 guys try to do
sued.
it.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, how many lawsuits got, like, it's the billable hours problem, like literally, because they just don't want to deal with it, and the agents and the lawyers know it. Like there has to be repercussions, and I kind of wonder if the NCAA might go after some agents. It's
agent driven. It is all agent driven. Brian, my confusion lies with the fact that Do you notice how, okay, the NFL has structure, and I get it, it's a pro league, it's a true business, right? The NCAA is a nonprofit, right? I'm not going to get into all those logistics, but there is uniformity, there is a calendar, there are rules, because if players tried to pull this, now I get it, they're under contract, so and they're contracted to the NFL. So I understand that. My confusion lies in the fact that it's the NCAA's league, so how are they not able to enforce their own rules? Like, you are playing NCAA football. How is the NCAA not allowed to say that these are our rules and our conditions, and you have to follow them? Because the NFL gets to say it. So what's different about? So this is just kind of me asking generally, because I don't know. Why is the NFL allowed to say these are our rules, abide by them? The NCAA says it and the counter is, well, we're taking you to court. How is that? You've never seen anybody sue the NFL in terms like this.
Oh, it's very simple, and it's a very naughty circumstance for the NCAA they don't want to admit, but it's true. What are the NFL players? Employees. What are college players?
Okay, so it is that simple.
They don't want to give up calling them amateurs because the money's a bazillion times different.
There we go.
That's it.
There we go.
There's no in between. And on top of that, which adds to the money, if you are a employee, if you have head trauma, which obviously it's football, what are the odds of you suing and winning later? Way higher. What's the NCAA want to avoid? Being sued. It's just, they put themselves in this spot because of the almighty dollar.
Yes.
So I don't want to hear any complaining from the moron brigade at any of these conventions or any of these, come up in the suit in front of a podium and we're doing it for the best of the sport and all. Baloney. You're trying to get backdoor money from these corporations and everything else, just like politicians do, because you're scumbags. Many of them, not all, but many are scumbags, straight up. So I don't know if it's Olympic committee scumbag level, but there's a lot of backdoor stuff that goes on in college athletics. They don't want to make the employees part of their situation, meaning the actual players. Therefore, they don't have as much power when it comes to rules.
Yeah.
You got to give to get. So here we are.
I don't want Penn State to be affected by this, but I also don't want college football to be affected by this. The fact that we're having this conversation before spring ball practices have even started here, it just takes away from the overall enjoyment of the sport. But like you said, it's the consequences of the NCAA's lack of decision making from back in the day. Consequences, your actions have consequences, as we all know here. How about we actually turn it to a football conversation? Penn State still does not have a commit in the class of 2027, but they are trending in the right direction for a lot of prospects, and in due time they will get them. What about quarterback? Because the number one QB prospect, this guy was a 3-star, and now he's the number one overall quarterback prospect, and Penn State's in the mix. Will they actually have a chance to land him? We're going to discuss that next here on this Locked On Crossover. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. The biggest stretch of the college basketball season is almost here. Buzzer beaters, bracket busters, and those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. Being there live for something like that, hey, that's bucket list kind of stuff. The hard part is always getting tickets. Long queues, prices jumping around, surprise fees at checkout. Not with Game Time, though. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's incredibly simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price that you see. What you see is what you pay, period. The seat view feature, now that's a game changer. You can see a panoramic view from your exact seat before you go to buy. Truly game changing if you've never been to a stadium or a venue before. Take the guesswork out of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is code LOCKEDON. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Welcome into the 5-hour energy flavor draft with 18 flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. And I've got my number one pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft. Now, who are you taking? Because I'm going to go with a classic and it's Tropical Burst. You have tasty caffeine with island vibes, a delicious combination of pineapple and apricot flavors, juicy, fruit-forward tropical profile, sweet with a light tang. But you also have tons of other options to choose from. Maybe you're going with strawberry banana, Hawaiian breeze, sour apple, peach mango. You get to choose what your top pick is with 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with 0 sugar. 5 Hour Energy has a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned. You can find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. That is 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Penn State is in good standing with a few quarterback prospects. One of them is the number 1 QB in the country, and Will Mencl out of the state of Arizona. There's also Peter Bourque, and we're going to talk about Will Wood, who I think will also see a rise in the rankings in due time. It also talks about Penn State's evaluations because Mencl took the largest jump in the latest On3 rankings. Now, he's been, I think, projected, or it's expected that Oregon leads this recruitment. But the fact that Penn State's strongly in the mix and Matt Campbell hasn't really been at Penn State that long kind of tells me a lot, and it tells me a lot about Jake Waters, the quarterback's coach, who evaluated him and said, okay, this is our guy. Who cares about the recruiting ranking?
Well, I'd rather you did your own evaluations. You know, it's kind of what, I mean, you sent me that text message. I hadn't checked On3. Like Mencl was, as you said, a 3-star. Yep. All of a sudden he vaulted up to number 1. I went and watched his film. I wouldn't rank him that high. I think he's a top 100 kid. Trying to figure out who's number 1 right now it's too early. I haven't even come close to watching that much film, but he's a top 10 quarterback. That's good enough. He's mobile. He makes a lot of plays off platform. He's actually, this is weird, he's better when a guy's in his face. Like I don't know how to explain it.
He's better under pressure. I like that.
Yeah, he's really good at it. And he's one of those guys that if you jack around and don't come at the right angle, he'll make you pay with his legs or his arm. He'll move to throw or he'll move to run. He is a dual threat quarterback, changes arm angles all the time. He's very savvy. He's got a lot between the ears. And Mencl is pretty much the epitome of what somebody that's a really good defense coordinator hates, somebody that you have to account for all the time, but he's not like elite level runner. He's just enough to drive you nuts. He'll go get 8 yards anytime that he needs to.
Mahomes does that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good comparison. Mahomes is not a great athlete, but he will run, and he's fast enough to go get 7 yards and pick up the first down. And anytime you give that guy 3 more downs, it's a problem.
Yep.
This is the same kind of concept. I think Mencl just needs to add strength and weight, which, you know, he's a teenager. I can see why he's got offers from a gazillion schools. It's not really surprising. Again, I don't see him as number 1, but that's just me. But if Penn State got him, like, they would be very happy to do so, I'm sure. Again, conservatively, I think he's a top 10 quarterback in the class of 2027.
Do you have a preference if we're going in a head-to-head matchup here? Peter Bourque or Will Mencl? I mean, according to the consensus industry rankings, it's pick your quarterback, you know, to each their own kind of thing. Mencl is number 5 in the industry rankings now. This On3 has him number 1. The industry rankings say he's number 5. Peter Bourque is number 7. Well, there's how many differences are there between the number 5 and the number 7 overall quarterback? So if you had to pick, which commitment would you prefer for Penn State? They might not get either, which would be a shame, but I've always liked Peter Bourque. Will Mencl, more or less kind of coming out of nowhere late. Like, I think the jump is justified, right? I think he was extremely underrated as a 3-star, but I agree with you that, he's definitively the number 1 overall QB. I still need to see more. So who would you take? I would personally say Bourque, probably because I've seen more of his tape since we've had more conversations about him.
I like mobile quarterbacks. Bourque can move, but I'd have to go back through his film. I'd probably say Mencl, but I saw his film last. So that's a lot of bias there. I just saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
My guess is that both of them would do just fine with what the offense is like. Just thinking back to Iowa State's offense, which is obviously moving to Happy Valley. Either one would work. If you look at the way Rocco progressed, he started running more last year. He's a big, strong guy. Mencl adds some weight. I can see him doing that. Bourque's capable of moving around and making some plays, but I think Mencel's more mobile, so I'd probably go his direction.
So to be determined whether Penn State lands either of these quarterbacks. We know that Peter Bourque was originally committed to Michigan. It seems like they're going in a different direction. I saw some rumors or just social media chatter that he didn't. I don't want to speak out of turn here. He decommitted for a reason, but it sounded like he really did want to stay committed to Michigan. So, like I said, trying to imply that maybe there's a different direction that the Wolverines are going in. I don't know how you pivot away from a top 10 quarterback because those are hard to come by, but okay, so be it. But it gives Penn State an opportunity to reestablish the relationship under Matt Campbell with somebody like Peter Bourque. And it's going to be tough competition, right? Miami's going to be there. Hey, Virginia Tech and James Franklin are going to try at this again. Michigan, I imagine, will still be in the mix in some capacity. And Georgia's going to be there as well. So these are going to be some tough recruitments. Brian, the one that I think is most likely going to happen at the end of the day, if Penn State's going to get any quarterback commit, you're rooting for them to get Will Mencl or Peter Bourque. But here's a name that I just want Penn State fans to be aware of because this one's probably more likely to happen. And his name's Will Wood. Currently, he's a 3-star quarterback. He's right now, I would say the industry has him as a top 5 prospect in the state of Massachusetts, a top 5. He's number 3, according to Rivals. He is a top 35 quarterback overall. And I just think this is a case of there's not enough evaluation. What would you say based on, on the tape so far? Because Penn State's recruiting him very heavily as a quarterback out of the Northeast. So I don't think that's by accident if he's this unknown 3-star prospect.
I wouldn't be surprised if they took 2 quarterbacks anyway, but he's extremely accurate. He's got some mobility. He can throw back across his body. He's a pretty limber kid. I'd imagine he's played some shortstop or something like that. He's got some baseball to his game. I like him. I hate the phrase he's a gamer, but he's another one of those kids kind of like Mencl. When he has guys around him at the last second, when you're not really expecting it, he'll fire a pass, kind of throw it right by your ear. He's got a little gamesmanship to him. So I think he's just as good off platform, but the way, if you watch just some of his basic pocket throws, you would think, oh, this is just a rhythm passer, 1985 quarterback, but he's not. He can play either role. And he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's very, very accurate. I'm just curious how much his arm strength will improve between now and, say, 3 years from now. Okay. Throwing deep balls, sometimes you got to throw a laser. I haven't seen that yet. He'll kind of waft him in there. Other than that, he's a really good quarterback. And, again, accuracy is something that he has, and that's not something you necessarily teach. There's a feel for that, and he's really good at it.
Is it unfair or is it maybe odd to compare him to Rocco Becht? I see some similarities, right? Is that the vision here that Matt Campbell has and Jake Waters, the QB's coach, that, hey, we see it with our everyday starter. This guy kind of resembles him.
He does have some. And I knew Rocco when he was a junior and senior in high school. He was really good. I would say Rocco had a slightly stronger arm at this point, slightly bigger, but their style of play isn't all that different. Rocco was probably a little more loose with the football. He was a little more risque. His dad used to yell at him about that once in a while. He was one of the guys calling plays. But they have a lot of similarities. That's I hadn't thought about that, but that's really good fit right there.
That is where we will cap off this Locked On crossover here to talk all things Penn State recruiting and the transfer portal window, no transfer portal window. We'll see how it all unfolds. Hopefully, like I said, Penn State isn't caught in the middle of it, but I don't want to see that for anybody in college football. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on this episode of on the Portal Podcast and Locked On Nittany Lions. If you want daily updates when it comes to the transfer portal, because Brian, if you want to be up to date with everything that goes on with the portal or lack thereof, Brian's got you covered over at the Portal Podcast. I got you covered every day with Penn State content. So subscribe to both of our YouTube channels and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around either of those two topics. Make sure you let us know your thoughts down in the comment section. Leave a like on this episode, share it with friends and family. And Brian, as always, thank you so much for the time, the perspective, very intriguing conversation that I know is going to sneak up on us sooner rather than later. So thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to it again.